It's time
to duel.
But also, it's time to paint some really cool new miniatures that we've been waiting to show you guys.
For some of you, you'll be extremely excited to see the Heavy Sisters for the Sisters of the Old Blood painted up. For others, you'll be very excited for us to shut up about the Sisters of the Old Blood. Well, good news for both. It's the last 48 hours of the campaign. This is your last chance to back. Get our sisters, help us reach more stretch goals. There's a great bunch of minis, and it's a huge support to the channel for those who want to support the channel and get something awesome for it. So please go look at that. We'll talk about that later. And today, we're painting minis.
Yeah, we have the Sisters Heavies. If you love sort of Bloodborne inspired dark fantasy, high noble ladies, monster hunters who are vampires, that sort of thing.
Do you like fox hunting? Because we just unlocked basically a squad of vampire fox hunters.
Oh, we did, yeah.
Yeah, they look awesome. Alicia's been doing more concept art. Here you go. If you like girls in power armor or girls in gorgeous Victorian dresses, check it out and we're gonna show you. Let's do it.
Gorgeous girls.
Do you wanna start, get the prints off?
Yep, I'll do that, and then we're gonna paint them up.
This video is sponsored by us.
Hell yeah.
Sunglasses.
Welcome to a very special segment of Tabletop Time, in which we embrace the very brooding and dark aesthetic of the Sisters of the Old Blood. Totally not because the power in the entire area is currently out and will be out for the rest of the day. Luckily, the print did finish before the council cut the power and everything. So we have stuff to build. We've got Heavy Sisters who are heavily armored and not for any other reason. Don't cancel me. First wash. Manual style. Always double check the bottom of the vat if anything you missed. Continue. Assembling the models themselves is actually fairly straightforward. You've got a big piece of the body, legs, torso, and then you basically put on your selection of arms, the backpack, and head. I'm really impressed with the amount of detail that we've managed to get onto these models. All the filigree on the shoulder pads and also the details on the backpack is really cool. I love the tortured faces that are on the back of the, I guess it's the engine pack sort of thing, the reliquary motor. So it was fairly easy to assemble them all, taking a selection of all the weapons that we have available. We've got the crossbows that fire bullets, like literal bullets, because they don't understand how they work. They don't have gunpowder, they've just found these. And then you have these grenade launchers that will literally fire the cartoon grenades with, you know, the little wick on the end that goes psst, and then the cartoon character goes, ah, and rolls it back out the door or puts it down the funnel. And what's scarier than that than having it fired at you by someone who has the molded metallic form of hands punching in through their own eyes? It's terrifying. And something I do like, and you can probably notice from this footage, is that we have a variety of these faces, including a speak no evil, see no evil, and hear no evil. We've got our selection assembled, it is now time to paint them. And just like we did with our Kindred, we're going to have fun coming up with some new color schemes, as well as, of course, doing it the standard, quote-unquote, official color scheme. So I'm gonna be doing that, but first I'm gonna have fun with my own creation of my own devising. And to help us paint these miniatures, I'm actually going to be trying out some of the new Squidmar brushes, specifically the synthetic ones here. Emil has sent these to us to try out, and they look really nice. So I'm gonna put them through their paces and see how they perform. So for this particular Sister Heavy, I want to have this real wilderness vibe about them. Very inspired by the sort of a Green Knight of Arthurian legend. So I'm gonna start stippling with a really jaded oxide color, as in oxide that is also jade. The oxide isn't jaded. You know what I mean? That's gonna go all over the model, and then I'm gonna start heavily dry brushing with a black gold. This is gonna give this really nice dark burnished feeling. And it already feels like a statue that has been out in the weather for centuries. A quick brown wash will mellow things out, and then I'll finish it off with a lighter dry brush of a brighter gold. Then with that done, I'm gonna start moving on onto all the other parts, which is gonna be lots of browns, again, more natural colors. This is gonna include cloth, leather, the wooden parts of the crossbow that I've decided to do, and the straps on the chest plate. And I'm gonna go about doing them in exactly the same way, some highlights, bring out the luster with another brown wash, and then go back in on the leather with an ochre, because I feel that gives a really nice leathery pop, and then some drier dead wood color onto the wooden parts. But then I think I want to go for a bit more of a visual pop here. So for the bustle on this miniature, I'm going to paint this really off pink, as if it were once this pristine fabric that has gone to ruin over the years. This will be some layered hot pinks that go all the way up to an almost white, getting some nice specular highlights to give that sort of satin feeling. And then we'll start working on the candles on top of the backpack. These are really fun and give you a fun little focal point just above the head. I'm going to apply ochres, some ivories, and then do a fun little OSL trick using white to make some yellow pop, and then shading it down with oranges, reds, and then some dark browns to get that oily, wispy color. This time, I ain't gonna say to the prompt editor. Cop that.
Get awesome minis, support the channel, Sisters of the Old Blood, back a kid. That's the short spiel. 60% of you have already clicked that thing that YouTube brings up now to skip any ad reads. So for the rest of you, I just want to tell you about the Sisters of the Old Blood. This is the second campaign in the series we're making. We're producing a bunch of miniature factions that are going to go on to become a miniature war game, and with your support, we can get it bigger and better. These campaigns provide us the opportunity to do game development. They provide us opportunity to create assets such as art and lore, as well as the amazing miniatures which we produce rules for one-page rules, and you can use as proxies in other war games. So you can get models now, play with them now, paint them now, but also know you're supporting a future game that you will conveniently just have models already done for in the future. Each of us at Tabletop Time had the passion to create a faction, and the Sisters of the Old Blood was one of Jen's concepts, combining her love for sisters, females in power armor, with of course dark, brutal religious stuff, bloodborne, blasphemous, all of that good stuff. Back the campaign now, it's only up for another 48 hours, and you can help us reach some stretch goals. Hitting those stretch goals unlocks more units for everyone. We're currently hoping to get the core tiers. These are for people who ask, but where are the men in my all-women faction? Well, here are the men, desperately fighting to prove themselves good enough to enter the perfume-coated harem of the powerful Sisters of the Old Blood. That's right, if you've ever thought, step on me mummy, you could be a courtier. Help us unlock the courtiers. So I have to get this video out 2 days earlier than usual to promote the last 48 hours of the campaign, which meant I was only going to get time to paint one Sister of the Old Blood today. And these paint jobs are really fun experimental approaches to how we can push the models and take them in ways that we maybe hadn't envisaged earlier. We did one of these videos for the Kindred where we just painted a whole bunch of different ways, and the ideas generated often go on to become sort of like canon factions in the game we're making. I had this idea that I wasn't sure would work, to paint a sister in a completely white paint scheme. So I started out by spraying that black undercoat Murray had given me gray with an airbrush. In our Patreon mini review, we recently had a bit of a talk about painting white armor, specifically for stormtroopers, and I admitted I didn't often do it. So I wanted to challenge myself to find a way to make white armor look good. Specifically, I want these models to look almost stone or porcelain-like, which I think will work really well with all the faces sculpted on the sisters. Now to do that, I start with a mid-gray and then give a very gentle wash over the whole thing of watered down Nun oil just to settle into some of the cracks. And then I think the key to painting white decently and quickly is just to use a really thin consistency of paint. And then chiefly to only save actual pure white for the most extreme highlights. So I grabbed a gray that was brighter than the original spray I'd used, watered it down nice and thin, and then I use a painting motion where I pull up towards the higher surfaces so the thinned paint dries and leaves a little bit of a gradient on top of that gray. I don't have to do 2 full thin coats, but I do need to do 2 coats as I pull up towards the raised areas to create that nice gradient of gray to, well, a lighter gray. Once this is done, I can then get a white or close to white and paint just the point highlights on the armor. This process is relatively quick. You have to be a little bit more careful and practiced with your mixes and thin paints than you do with other schemes, but I don't actually think it's that hard to get a pretty good outcome. And I think I've done a great job making this look like stone. Now, as I'm making this evolve, I have some thoughts in the back of my head about how this reflects on the lore of the sisters and who these sisters are. There's a lot of themes of pregnancy, childbirth, sacrifice, and of course the heavy religious overtones of the Sisters of the Old Blood. And the color white has historically bared a lot of symbolism for women in regards to purity and maidenly virtue. And the white of a wedding dress, of course, is tied all in there. With this experiment, I wanted to capture that by keeping most of the models white. So I chose to paint the cloth areas in an almost ivory, using the same base tone with a gentle watered down sepia wash, and then highlights with bone accents. Now, there are some really important accents I want to make on this model as I start to move it towards the vision I have, and those are red. Yes, I'm going for a dark red color for the candles, for the gloves, and also for the leather components on the model. I think this is a really strong contrast, and it brings in the symbolism of the old blood and also a stain on that virtue that is symbolized by the white, which I think plays really interestingly. Some accents are painted in gold, the little buckles, as well as the bullets and the decorations on the gun. I also paint the crossbow with sort of a birch brown. I'm going from my Minecraft library of woods here. As we percolate the initial concepts for the game world and how the factions will interact, it's one of my principles as a burgeoning game designer that there should be a good justification in the game world for all the factions to be able to fight not only each other, but also themselves. So I decided that this faction are basically the penitent ones. It is an order of Sisters of the Old Blood who discovered the truth behind their origins, the source of their power, and the sacrifice that is actually made to become Sisters of the Old Blood. They rebelled, killing all of the higher-ups in their order, slaughtering those who had held the secrets in a bit of vampire regicide, and then swearing an oath to tear down the orders of the Sisters of the Old Blood at all costs. The only way they get new recruits is by revealing the truth to other Sisters of the Old Blood who occasionally swear an oath and join them. But they are the pariahs of the Sisters of the Old Blood, a scourge that is not spoken about. Whatever color they were, they bleached their armor and clothes white to represent a return or an attempt to return to purity, casting away the sin that they feel they have worn. However, they wear gloves of red because they know eternally their hands are stained with blood and they never truly can escape the guilt of what they've done. As all sisters are deeply infused with the magic of the old blood, a peculiar manifestation that has occurred amongst these penitent sisters is their deep and unbreaking sorrow has yielded tears of blood to weep from the eyes of the sculpted faces upon their armor. And overall, for an experimental paint job, I think these are kind of badass. I really like taking this in a fully different direction to the dark Victorian and Gothic themes that we've thrown into the sisters and we've shown off with the paint scheme and colors. And I think it's a very fun contrast that I'm feeling will make its way into the lore as we keep working on it for the sisters. But with that model painted, let's check out the other paint scheme Murray has come up with.
Now it is time to start painting the primary faction of the sisters. The one that you can see on the splash images. It's all a lot of dark colors, dark steel matched with a really vivid red velvet bodice and accents. So to start, I'm going to go for a really dark blue. I want to have this really dark, interesting metal. Basically going to overbrush this all over the metal parts. Treating it in the same way I would block out where I'd want highlights to go if I was doing non-metallic metal, where all the light is hitting it. Just running the brush over and trying not to get too much blue into the black recesses. That's going to be helpful later. Then I'm going to start dry brushing with a really dark silver. This will be all over the model, getting it messy completely everywhere. I like to start doing the messiest parts in miniatures, which is usually metallic, especially when it's a completely armored figure, and then you can neaten up everything when you go to paint the rest of the model. And then once that's done, I'm going to give it a nice wash of black all over, just to reestablish all the dark shades and gradients. Then when that's completely dried, it's time to go in for the final dry brush, just lightly putting in some even brighter silver. I'm pretty happy with that. It really stands out, but also looks like a really dark metal still. So once again, it's time to start moving on to all the other parts. I'm going to start with browns and establish where all the leather is. I'll do a basic highlight on this in exactly the same way as I painted the other miniature, giving it a brown wash. This really just brings out the saturation and gives it some real luster. It's my favorite technique with leather, and while that's being allowed to dry, I'm going to start working on the red bustling. And as you can see, I'm going to be painting it green. Bear with me, I have not in fact lost my mind. This is a little technique to give something a lot more luster. But for now, that's just going to stay green. It's going to confuse you for a while, as I'm going to start moving on to a bunch of the other details. I'll finish highlighting all of the wood and the leather, and then I'm finally going to go and address the green elephant in the room. And to do that, I'm going to finally pull out some red. I'm going to get a really dark red, almost burgundy, like a wine red, and just brush it all over the top as if I'm layering. Leaving all the green in the recesses like you usually would with a black, specifically all the parts of the model that are facing downwards. Everything facing upwards is going to be red, so you sort of get this two-tone effect, which might seem really confusing, but basically green is the complementary color of red, which means they interact and bounce off each other really nicely. The green is going to help to enhance the saturation of the red, so in your eye it's going to look even stronger. That's the whole trick basically. And So I'm gonna keep enhancing the red by adding more and more layers, getting more vibrant, and then mixing in a bit of salmon to get that nice velvety sheen in the highlights. And then for a final step, I'll glaze all the red fabric with a red contrast. This is thinned down a huge amount until it's basically just watery red, but you can already see the effect one thin coat of glaze does to really increase the pop and saturation of what is underneath. And now it's time to have fun with the candles again. Exactly the same as I did with the last miniature. And just for fun, I'm gonna throw on a little review of the Squid Ma synthetic brushes, the new ones. They are actually really nice. They might be some of the nicest synthetic brushes I think I've ever used. The more pointy wedge-shaped ones holds water really well. The amount of water that brush was holding was actually catching me off guard, so I had to sort of adjust. It's actually really good for washes, but I insisted on using it for most of the miniature work I did today. So cool! It's a big fat brush. The fine detail brush was fantastic. I would actually recommend that to anyone who doesn't feel like that they want to splash out to sable brushes yet. It's time to see what Dave's painting, so go and enjoy that.
Murray headed off and I was going to do the basing for all of the models. As Murray mentioned earlier in the videos, one of his factions was quite verdant, but also weathered and run down. I love this paint scheme and also the idea of an area of our game world that is being reclaimed by the wilderness. So for all of these bases, I laid down different amounts of milliput and used texture rollers to put the imprint of cobblestones or bricks on them. For this particular sister, I went with one that had a sparse amount of these cobblestones and put on a bunch of texture paste to simulate dirt. Then I grabbed some grass tufts from Gamer's Grass, as well as some laser cut plants and some flowers to populate the base and make it start to look overgrown. I've always loved the look of these laser cut plants. I think they give a bunch of depth and dimension to the models. And with that simple paint scheme I went with of gray cobblestones, brown dirt, and a bit of overgrowth, I think it matches without taking away from the paint job Murray's done. For my own pendant one, the White Armored Sister Weeping Blood, I wanted to use a base that would not contrast too heavily and distract from a white paint scheme. So I actually went with more of a sandstone brick for this one. I used some dry grass tufts and a bit of bracken fern, both of which also emulate the dry look of the environment, and then I glued the sister on. And I think I have achieved what I wanted, matching the ivories and the browns of the weapon to create a harmonious base that also makes her look even more like a statue in this environment, which I think works really well. The last one for the cover faction sisters that I desperately need to come up with a name with, which a brief interlude. It's difficult to do this as we're developing it because there's so many moving parts to the sisters. They're representing a kind of government structure and society that never really existed in the real world. Where the Warhammer Sisters of Battle are based around nunneries with canonesses, sisters, etc., the Sisters of the Old Blood are more steeped in Catholic tradition. And we're imagining a world where those kind of gender divides in the actual church that happened in the real world didn't exist. So the sisters are led by archbishops and pontiffs who are women, but we're taking more inspiration from like the Holy Roman Empire and the early papal states. So with that, these city-states centered around cathedrals in the wastelands would be called a diocese, which is basically the territory ruled by a bishop. Now, we haven't even decided if there is a lady pope in the universe because it isn't Catholicism, it's just kind of taking bits of that. We do want to be aware that like people practice these religions today, and while it's cool to take from the deep history, I don't really want to be stepping on people's toes or making direct references to real world religions and real world faiths. Like, yes, we're using some of that faux Latin terminology, but there's no Christian God, there's no crosses. They worship the old blood of an elder being. This is like an extra dimensional weird Cthulhu monster, right? So I don't think there will be a pope. I think calling them the pontiff is probably better. But anyway, all of that said, while we know what we're gonna call the regions in the sense that we'll probably call them dioceses and city-states, we haven't actually named the orders or worked out the particular factions. So that's something we're still working on. So that has kind of rambled me to the point where I've said, the cover poster faction ones that Murray painted, yeah, I just gave them some really dark stone bases to match the models, put some burnt tufts on and a couple of little purple roses to reflect off the red points on the armor, representing some growth coming through a purged area that they might have burnt with their flamethrowers. The Sisters lore is something we have so many ideas for, but it's because of the campaigns that we get time to sit down and flesh it out. It's actually one of the biggest things I'm looking forward to after this campaign in the next couple of months is digging in and really fleshing out all these concepts we have for the Sisters. I've worked on all of these Sisters, they're based, and I want to show them off, but I think the person who deserves to see the reveals at the same time as you is, of course, one of the core people that was involved in conceptualizing and creating the Sisters of the Old Blood. Someone who has her own childbirth story that didn't involve elder gods and drinking blood, thankfully, and that's Jen.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's so cool. I really like the color combination and it's like bronze. That's awesome. Ooh, ooh, a bright one. Oh, wow. That's so pretty.
Murray's interpretation of your color scheme.
Ooh, I like it a lot. This like fits perfectly into my army.
How's it feel seeing your faction realized?
It's really awesome. I think I didn't expect there to be so much detail in these minis, and you guys painting them up, like, and seeing, because I've only ever seen the big renders, so seeing it as an actual miniature is so freaking cool.
Patrick's done such a good job. They look awesome.
Amazing, beautiful, beautiful work. And I really hope people like these as much as I do, because this looks sick.
And now, how do you feel knowing we've got to go grab our baby who's getting upset?
No, I love my baby. Maybe he can paint one as well. We'll see how we
Yeah,
go.
in a couple of years.
In a couple of years, yeah.
All right, thanks for visiting.
Bye.
Hey, buddy, we're here.
We did it.
We have some people in our Discord community in a chat called Sisters and Kindred Chat, who are very enthusiastic about the Kindred of the Abyss.
We do,
and
yes.
Doing this and painting this made me realize how cool it is that the decisions we make painting, coming up with cool paint schemes for these models we've created, go on to impact people who get excited about this.
Yeah.
A year ago, the concept of New Liberty and Defiance and the cities of the Kindred was meaningless. And until today, these ideas of these sisters cathedrals didn't exist. So these paint schemes people might be doing in the future, that you might download your Sisters of the Old Blood and paint the schemes we've painted today and be playing with them on tables in a year or two, or even in a couple of months if you're using one-page rules.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of these concepts happen after we finish painting model. Like, we paint something and then decide, oh, this looks like it would originate in here because of these situations. And then we sort of just expand a bit of world building because of that. And that's really cool. Or sometimes it is in fact inspired by someone in the Discord who just says, oh, hey, does this faction have this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It influences it. It's so cool. It's been a real privilege and it's been really fun bringing these together. It's also been really fun showing Jen. She's been getting hype at everything we've been able to show. Can't wait to see where the Sisters campaign finishes up. There will never be, the bundle will never be this cheap again. It will never be repeated. We do bring back our bundles for future campaigns, but they're like twice as much money. So it's a one-off deal. You get everything and your funds help unlock more models.
Yeah, so it's a deal for you and it really supports us. It helps us get, the next faction rolling.
And we may be able to unlock another unit, the Courtiers. I'm very excited if that happens. So let's see what we can do. Final stretch, support the channel, support the sisters. Thank you so much for watching. David out.
Murray in.